So unlike the video that I'm currently working on, which is taking me a bit too long due to the length of it, I decided to instead try for a shorter commentary based on something that I can speak more to from my own perspective rather than having to incessantly look for links in that, because although actually the commentary that I'm working on it doesn't require that much in citations, it's just taking too long because it's a long-ass commentary. So instead, I decided to cover this article from this mommy blog, which irritates me. For those of you that saw me linking this shit on Twitter, not necessarily this, but talking about the issue of parenting, this is what set me off, because I can't stand organizations like this that are clearly ideologically driven, and they're trying to force parents to indoctrinate their kids to see themselves only in the position where they need to be leaders. Because one of the problems with campaigns such as this one regarding women in leadership is the issue that you can have two things, okay? These things are mutually exclusive. You can have your daughter be ambitious, wildly ambitious, try her hardest to succeed and achieve status and wealth in society, okay? Whether that be in politics or in a more managerial role, you know, even if it's just bureaucratic, it still requires ambition and effort to achieve those positions, okay? Getting into an elected office isn't easy. Regardless of what office it isn't easy. It requires, even if it's just, you know, low-level shit, it requires a relational status with people in power already. You have to know, you know, if you're a Democrat, you have to know the Democratic chairman in your county. You have to know elected politicians that are already in power, or previous politicians that hold a lot of sway towards donors or other more, you know, smaller party people that you need to speak to beforehand before even getting on the ballot, right? There is a process to go through that requires a tremendous amount of effort on your part in order for you to achieve something. And it's amazing to me that campaigns like this don't in any way illustrate that to kids. Becoming successful requires a tremendous amount of work. And so here's the difference, okay? You can have your child be successful, or you can have your child be happy. There is no fucking perfection in terms of being perfectly happy and perfectly successful. You can only be one or the other. Because I'm telling you right now, if you raise a child to be wildly ambitious, they are not going to be satisfied by small-time shit. You know, they're a cashier at a fucking Denny's. They're not going to be satisfied with that role. You might be happy as a parent that they're successful at, you know, ringing that fucking cash register. They're not satisfied by it because they ultimately understand that that is not a successful role, or what is seen as a successful role in society. And this isn't, you know, to shit on people, but this is what I'm talking about. Someone can be satisfied by being just a cashier in a Denny's. It's a job. They go there, they clock in, they clock out, they collect a paycheck. It's just a job to them. But you know, outside of work, they're a parent, or you know, they have a hobby, or they you know, commentate on YouTube or whatever. They're satisfied by something else, but they have a job, and that's all they really require. Just some low-end job. Who cares? That's all they really need. But if you're pushing them to be successful, that isn't what defines success. Especially when you're talking about leadership. That is something very specific. That is something that requires effort on their part. If you're telling them to become management in a corporation, that requires a tremendous amount of effort. It requires not just a pedigree in terms of education, but also a tremendous amount of effort on their part in slaving away, climbing the corporate ladder. Okay? And it requires a specific kind of person. If you're this emotional, fragile pussy, you're only ever going to get so far in a corporation. And I can tell you this from meeting people that are very successful, two of which I've met personally, that are women one of which is an entrepreneurial woman that owns like a fuckload of businesses in Buffalo, who I can just summarize her by the fact that she's wildly successful and wildly charismatic. Just the most charismatic woman I have ever fucking met. And she is an unbelievably ambitious person. Do I think she was somehow indoctrinated to be that way? No, I don't fucking think so. I'm pretty sure that's the way she is. I'm pretty sure it's very hard for her to be anything but an extremely extroverted, charismatic person who seized on her strength and became a wildly wealthy woman through her own effort. And I'm pretty sure she's in her 50s or maybe 60s at this point now, but it took her a very long fucking time to become that independently wealthy. This isn't someone that was born into money. They became wealthy. And that isn't fucking easy. Even if we're just limiting this to joining management in a corporation, that is not an easy process. That requires a specific kind of personality. Because just take the video game industry, for instance. If you are a manager or producer in a video game company, okay, when a project is finished, you have to downsize the team. You have to lay people off. You may have to tell people that they need to take a pay cut. You may need to lay people off. You may need to fire people. You might even be told by upper management to close the whole fucking team, to scuttle the fucking team. They'll keep you as a number cruncher and they'll move you somewhere else. But get rid of the team. Liquidate everything else because we're done with this team. Look at Maxis. Or the hundreds of other companies that have been completely dissolved. Now, everyone at Maxis wasn't fired, but a number of people were laid off. They were removed from the company because they no longer need it. And the upper management made that fucking decision. And what kind of person do you need to be to look people in the eye and say that you're no longer needed? You're either going to have to take a pay cut or you're out of a job. And I'm sorry, maybe we'll try to work with you to find a new position elsewhere, but you need to go. That's it. You can't be an emotional sponge. You can't be this weak-willed pussy. It requires a very specific kind of personality. It requires a very specific kind of person. You need to be a professional psychopath. You can't be a fucking pussy. And in this case, you can't have it both ways. Okay? That's the whole point of this. Even though that I'm rambling on at this point. You have to be one kind of person to be in a management position. You need to be one kind of person to be a successful entrepreneur. You need to be one kind of person to be a successful politician. And it isn't someone that it is a fucking sob story. If you're weak-willed, that's it. That's as far as you fucking go. And I understand that I've been speaking for a very extended period of time with this, which I believe I started out by saying I wouldn't do, but this is frustrating to me because this is a propaganda campaign. This is an ideologically driven campaign to tell little girls how to think. And I'm sorry, but most girls, like most fucking boys, do not want the responsibility of a leadership position. They understand, and we'll get to a study in a second here, that illustrates perfectly what I'm speaking about here. Most people, especially when they understand the responsibility that comes with leadership positions, they don't want to be leaders. It requires a specific kind of person. But before we get to the study that I'm going to really cover, let's just quickly read this first part, and then we'll play the video. So the article is called Girls' Voices Are Non-Negotiable. Here's how to keep girls raising their voices in a confusing culture. And it shows these words, spaz, nudnik, which I could make a joke about, but I'm already in a bad mood, so I'm not going to bother. Bossy, pistol, which I don't even know what that means, and loudmouth. These are some of the names we grew up being called. Already we have a problem. Who the fuck, as a little girl, was called a nudnik by another girl? This is already so fucking disconnected from reality that any fucking person reading this should know this is an issue. Now, I can't speak for every girl. Obviously, I don't understand what it's like to grow up as a little girl, all right? But when I was growing up, guys were called faggots or derogatively referred to as faggots. All the time, incessantly, through middle school and high school. That was the derogatory term that I heard most boys referring to other boys as. Girls, on the other hand, I incessantly heard them refer to other girls as bitches. Or a girl as a bitch. It seemed to be about as general as a term as faggot was for boys. That's what I heard. So when I hear pistol, spaz, nudnik, and bossy, I don't know what the fuck you're referencing. I have no earthly idea what the fuck you're talking about. I do not recall a single instance ever when I was growing up as a kid hearing a girl derogatively referred to as bossy. Never once have I heard that. I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but I'm just saying that this strikes me as disconnected from reality. Girls who raise their voices, who ask for what they need, and who say how they feel risk being ostracized by peers and adults alike. See, now, these are three different things. Girls who raise their voices. Well, not every girl that's saying something is saying something that is either correct or worth saying. And this applies to me, this applies to you, this applies to everyone, okay? You may give an opinion that is either ignorant or is freaking frivolous, vacuous, that has nothing to contribute. And in either case, whether it's you contributing something that's vacuous or you giving an incorrect opinion, someone's going to say either, that's stupid or, hey, you're wrong about that. And I'm sorry, they're not entitled to being correct in that way, okay? If a girl says something that's fucking stupid, it remains fucking stupid. It doesn't matter whether a girl said it or a guy said it. So, no, this is already incorrect. But let's move on. Who asks for what they need? That's true. If a girl needs something and asks for it, they should receive it, unless it's something where they're coming from the perspective of being a spoiled single child, which I can speak firsthand in terms of experience. You may want to say no occasionally to what they say they need, because more often than not, they actually don't need it. It's just they're selfish and they're a single child, which, again, speaking from experience. And who say how they feel risk being ostracized by peers and adults alike. Okay, then, name me a person that hasn't been ostracized, although that's a strong word to use, about how they feel. If they feel one way, that doesn't mean anything. And if you're looking for a dispassionate, professional psychopath for your upper managerial position, they're not going around talking about their fucking feelings. This is already an issue. You can have someone, again, this emotional, shy introvert, or the dispassionate fucking manager. Choose one. You can't have both. You can choose one of those fucking things. You're not going to get both. This is one of the things that pisses me off about these mommy blogs. And I want boys to express their emotion. I want them to tell me how they feel. And then if you express anything, that isn't sadness or, acting like the biggest cuck in the world, it's rejected. If you express anger, that's the last emotion that mommy blogs want to hear. They reject anger as an emotion. They see anger as some kind of defect that needs to be fucking remedied. You need to medicate that fucking kid who has anger. It's one of the major issues with these kind of blogs is that, I don't need to even get into it, but I find that these campaigns and people with this kind of perspective treat boys as defective girls. That's what I find. It was one of the things when I was growing up that, some teacher recommended to my mother during a parent-teacher conference that I should be put on Ritalin, or that I should be put on a whole host of different fucking narcotics. And my mother said, no, I'm not going to fuck my kid up by putting them on these hardened drugs. I'm not putting my kid on these things because there's nothing wrong with my child. He's rambunctious. He's assertive. He's opinionated. He's a young boy. There's nothing wrong with those things. There's nothing wrong with the fact that he's aggressive. He's not getting into fights. He's not fucking, I'm not running around tackling every kid, beating the shit out of women, running around using violent language when I was a kid. That's not what was happening. I was just assertive. I was someone that didn't just lay back and get run over by other people. I was interested in education. I was interested in what I was learning. So I gave my opinion. I asked questions. I participated. But in today's world, that's something that is illegitimate if you're a fucking boy. If you're a boy in this culture, it's wrong if you actually contribute. You need to shut the fuck up. Women need to speak. Little girls need to speak. So shut the fuck up, little boys. Put them on Ritalin. Quiet them up. I understand it's getting ranty, but, this kind of shit pisses me off. It's a confusing time to be a girl. On the one hand, we may have opened every door for girls, yet we still expect them to creep through sweetly and silently. If they don't, we police them with labels like bossy. I don't want to be a leader because people will think I am bossy if I am a leader. So I hate to break it to the parents of this girl in the 3rd grade from San Diego. Your kid's not going to be a leader. Your kid is not going to be a fucking leader if they give a shit what other people think, if what other kids think. Bossy kids that are assertive, don't give a flying fuck what other kids think about them. They don't care. It's one of the least concerns that they have, and that's what makes them essentially a leader, or gives them at least the personality to be a leader. If they are pushovers, if they are introverts, if they are shy, if they are afraid to say fucking anything because they may be rejected or they'll look like an idiot in front of class, they're not a leader, or they at least don't have the personality for it. And so here's a study. I won't read the rest of this part of this, but there is a PDF here that links to this study from the Girl Scouts. And this is actually a decent study, but here's the problem you run into, okay? I'll illustrate it exactly for you guys, okay? They asked little kids, what defines leaders? And these kids are correct. This is a very accurate description of leaders. But follow me, okay? 36% of kids believe that a leader is one who tries to be the very best at something. 46% of kids believe that a leader is one who has skills that makes others respect them. 49% of kids believe that one who is in charge of other people and makes decisions that affect them are leaders. 51% of kids believe that one who tries to change the world for the better is a leader. 62% of children believe that one who stands up for his or her beliefs and values is a leader. 69% of kids believe that one who brings people together to get things done is a leader. Do I need to say much more about what's wrong with this perspective? Here's the top one, okay? This is a smart thing said by these kids. One who brings people together to get things done is what makes a leader. What they are talking about is efficacy. That's what they're saying makes a leader. And that is exactly right. That is exactly fucking right. And good on these kids for recognizing that fact. This is what makes a leader. But the problem is, just because someone is a good leader doesn't make them a good fucking person. You can believe in something absolutely and stand up for it and try to get things done based on your beliefs, but that doesn't necessarily make you a good fucking person. Hitler believed in his ideology. Hitler was an insanely passionate and competent leader, but he was also one of the biggest fucking scumbags ever in history. Hitler was one of the worst fucking people in history. People loathe him to such a degree that we compare him more often to any other, in terms of disrespect and to denigrate someone in terms of comparison. We do that more often with him in America than any other fucking person. Okay? Think of any corrupt, horrible leader. Think of any of them that have existed. Stalin, or Mussolini, or, you know, any of the dictators that have existed. Name your random dictator. Or Nixon. Nixon is a corrupt and horrible politician, okay? He was a president, and he was a piece of shit criminal, and we elected him to power. No one compares anyone to Nixon if they aren't like some fucking political wonk. Everyone compares a shitty person, or what they perceive as a shitty person, to Hitler. He was one of the most competent politicians in history. Utterly awful fucking loathsome person. A genocidal lunatic. An ideologically driven madman. Still one of the most competent politicians ever. One of the most competent leaders ever. Okay? That's the big issue that we forget about in talking about all this bullshit about girls being in leadership positions. What do those girls believe? What's rolling around in their fucking minds? Is it crazy fascist garbage? Well, maybe that girl should shut the fuck up. Maybe that girl shouldn't be in a fucking leadership position if she's a fucking fascist. Can we give that fucking exception in this campaign? And I know that people are going to say that I'm taking this too seriously, but this is the shit that is being indoctrinated into parents, and they are trying to indoctrinate into their fucking kids. So this is a long study, and I could spend a lot more time on it, but this is already a long commentary. And so I'm just going to walk away from this study. And again, it's actually a decent study. If you read through it, it'll all be linked. And the methodology is actually not bad, which, you know, is kind of surprising from this kind of study. Usually the methodology is worse, but this is a fairly scientific poll of kids. So I'll link it. But let's get back to this main fucking article. Let's watch this 2-minute long video. And I'm trying, I'll try to cut myself back a little bit because again, this is what happens when you're not on a script.
Today's letter is from Rebecca. Dear Girls Leadership, no offense, but aren't you setting girls up to get labeled sassy and be punished for being too outspoken? Don't you realize the blowback women get when they assert themselves? I don't get why I should work so hard to tell my daughter to speak up when she's so convinced it won't work out and that other girls will get mad at her.
There's nothing in this issue that actually says that there's any reason for this kid to speak up. Nothing. It's just her mom trying to indoctrinate her and lecturing her to fucking speak up to her friends for no apparent fucking reason. No reason. Just, you need to be more opinionated around your fucking friends. And so she goes, well, why, Mom? Why should I be an opinionated bitch to my friends? Well, it's because this fucking idiot with a shitty haircut has completely warped my mind and formatted my fucking brain where this is my only perspective. Where women need to speak up for no apparent reason, despite the fact they have nothing to say and there's no actual issue at hand. They need to speak up. They need to be heard.
Well, Rebecca, I can't argue with you. I mean, we're obviously living in a society where women and girls get punished for speaking their minds.
So here's the word I heard. Society. Are we talking about society, or are we talking about Rebecca's daughter's fucking friends? Are we talking about her friends, or are we talking about society? Those two things are not the fucking same. It can be one or the other. And this already shows you that what you're hearing is about to be fucking sophistry.
We get called all kinds of awful names, and it's definitely enough to make you want to lock your kid away and not have her deal with any of that. But we cannot give up on teaching girls to speak their minds. When a girl knows how to say what she needs, her whole world opens up. I mean, it's like you can figure out what matters to you when you can speak up. You can figure out how you want to change the world, whether that world is your relationships or society.
Not every fucking girl wants to change fucking society, okay? Because saying you want to change society and being in a leadership position to change society, those are two huge fucking differences. And one of them carries a tremendous amount of responsibility. And it requires a tremendous amount of effort to get in that position. How many fucking people have lived and died on this fucking planet in the billions that will never be the president of the United States? How many billions of people have thought to themselves, man, I wish I could be the president of the United States? And they're never going to fucking be the president of the United States. They're going to die never achieving that fucking position. Okay? Your kid is more than likely, okay? And I'm being generous, in being in the same camp as those billions of people and never achieving that, never achieving the status of being the president of the United States and never being in the position to change society. That requires so much fucking concerted effort and requires a particular person. I'm sorry. There have only been 40-odd fucking presidents, okay? That's how many presidents for the hegemon of the world, the United States of America, okay? That's how many fucking people have been in that position. Am I going to be in that position? No. Are you going to be in that position? No. Is this fucking idiot with a shitty haircut going to be in this position? No. Is Rebecca's daughter going to be in that fucking position? No. These things are certain. These are things that I would bet every penny of what I have and what I will ever make. I will bet that amount on the case that Rebecca's daughter will never be fucking president and will never be in a position to change society. This is the issue. You are instilling insanely ambitious expectations in your fucking kids. All right? You know, like, you have to, like, again, okay? Your kid can be happy or your kid can be fucking ambitious. Really, okay? Your kid can be wildly successful or your kid can be happy and satisfied. These things are mutually exclusive, and you can pick one or the other. And it comes with the consequences of the fact that your kid's going to be happy, your kid's going to be satisfied, they're never going to be wildly successful. Or your kid's going to be wildly successful, but they likely won't have time for you. They likely will be parents that don't have time for the kids. They'll likely, never be really satisfied because they're ambitious. They're always trying to achieve more. And that's what they like about their life. They like the fact that there's something to pursue, something to achieve, some status to garner, okay? But, you can pick one or the other. You can't be both. You can't achieve it all. No one ever has.
One thing that we hear from girls all the time is when they do stand up to their friends, even if it doesn't work out, it actually feels so good to have done it.
What are we talking about? Are we talking about society? Are we talking about Rebecca's daughter's fucking friends? Which group are we fucking talking about? But again, you just use these words interchangeably, and it shows you as a sophist.
That they feel proud of themselves for having just spoken their minds, and there is value in that, whether or not it works out for you.
False. Objectively false. Okay? If your kid says something that is fucking vacuous or is incorrect, demonstrably incorrect, there is no value then in their contribution, other than maybe they learned something if they are in fact incorrect. They use a word incorrectly, and someone says, that's not how you say that word. This is how you pronounce that word. They just learned something, so there is value in the fact that they just made a mistake. But if they say some vacuous bullshit as an opinion, you're going to get people like me. Concrete thinkers, people that don't have a problem speaking our opinion on something already, don't need this fucking feel-good bullshit that will say to you, that was some stupid bullshit you just said. What is fucking rattling around in your fucking skull? Because I'm sure it's not a brain. Because what you just said was completely fucking retarded. You are going to get mean people. There are things that are, subjective. Principles, beliefs in that people can argue over. But people can still have convictions about, okay? People can be convinced of laudable beliefs. If it were me and I'm, rambling on about individualism, these are beliefs that I strongly hold. These are things that I value. And there is some connection to morality to that, okay? These are things that I see as honorable. These are things that I see as noble to believe or are moral beliefs, okay? To some degree. Because it's based on my personal value system and worldview and that and all that, okay? But in the case of someone saying vacuous bullshit, they are going to be called out. And if they are someone that is weak-willed, someone that is basing everything on their own ego rather than what's grounded in reality, they're going to be insecure. They're going to be rightfully put down. There's going to be credible dissent to the stupid shit they're saying. And they're not going to be able to counter that. It's only going to be this narcissism that's driving them. because they're never going to actually be able to retort to the person that is rebuking what they say, because it's not actually grounded in anything real. It's not actually based on anything. It's just how you feel. And that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how you fucking feel. It's about beliefs. It's about opinions based on whether evidence or your convictions, okay? It has to be based on something that is credible, something that you can follow up on, something that you can explain, something you can demonstrate, something that isn't something you feel.
Another thing you may have noticed, Rebecca, is that sometimes when you talk to your daughter and you say something calmly to her, like, hey, would you mind cleaning your room? She goes, why are you screaming at me? And you're like, I wasn't, but okay. What's up with that?
Single child, teenager, do I need to explain anymore? Do I even need to explain any more than that? When I say teenager, when I say single child, some of you, I would hope, know exactly what I'm talking about. You know, your kids are going through puberty. They're full of fucking chemicals that are making them emotional. And you're sitting there going like, I can't understand why my kids are so emotional. I just don't get it. You know, what, this is what I'm talking about, okay? Like, this isn't just for baby boomers, right? Because, you know, Gen X have become parents in that, and even millennials to some degree, but it's just like, when you became an adult, did someone format your fucking brain? Did you somehow forget puberty? Did you somehow forget that you were a fucking cunt to your parents during your teenage years? Did you somehow forget that? When you become a parent, is your brain just formatted completely to where you forget everything that's happened in your life prior to that? Like, I just don't understand why people are this fucking stupid about kids. My kid's emotional. Whose kid isn't? Jesus.
So that's happening so much with girls because they don't have that comfort with listening to assertive communication. They haven't flexed that muscle of hearing people be direct with them. And that's equally problematic because when girls can't hear other people being direct, it makes them shrink away from the world and it makes them unable to internalize really important information that they need to hear, like clean your room. So create a culture at home where people are being assertive, where your daughter has the opportunity to flex the muscle of not just speaking up, but also hearing other people do it. We have to remember that no matter what the culture tells girls and women about speaking up, being able to say what you need and find the people who can handle that is a critical part of a whole, rich, happy life.
What does it even mean? All I heard in that was discipline your kid. Set boundaries between you as the parent and you as the authority and your kid as the fucking, dependent. That's all I heard. That's all you need to say is you're the parent. You're the authority figure. Which, it doesn't require all that fucking word salad bullshit. But this is what I'm talking about. You can't just say, discipline your kids. Be the authority figure. Be the autocrat. Because, unfortunately, this is what these people are against. These people are against that. They don't support autocratic parents that are reserved, that are conservative, and discipline their fucking kids. They're not in favor of that. Again, if you're a father, you got to be a cuck. If you're a mother, you're an ideologue. And they can't figure out how they can both purport their fucking ideology and still be a parent that can control every aspect of their kids' lives. Which, unfortunately, you got to choose. Either your kid gets to do some stupid shit, your kid gets to be a little bit spoiled, or you're the autocrat at home. There is no mixture because you can't predict kids. There's no formula to parenting. But these people aren't willing to make that concession. They're not willing to address the fact that every kid is different. Every kid's an individual. Teenagers are going to be cunts. It doesn't even matter. I can't say it for every fucking teenager, but more likely than not, your kid during puberty is going to be a fucking cunt. And you can't control that. It's just mitigating it. It's just doing damage control for however many years that your kid's a cunt. Or you're an autocrat. You know? And maybe your kid lashes out, maybe they don't, maybe you fuck them up, maybe you don't. Who knows? It depends on the kid. Depends on the level of discipline, which she's not even getting into the specifics at all. Just word salad. I might as well be listening to fucking Sarah Palin talk about parenting. This is nonsense. This is actually already a very long commentary, but I'm gonna go through the last parts of this article that are just strategies, and we'll try to get through this fairly quickly because I already know most people have clicked off by now. Consider some of these strategies. Make your home a sanctuary where girls and women can speak up. Again, this is where being, the good old cuck dad comes in. When your daughter asks for what she needs assertively, resolves a conflict gracefully, or shares her feelings, tell her that you're proud of her. Well, what if your daughter is asking for a new Mustang? Oh, I'm proud of you. That makes sense. Recognize the moment and let her know you appreciate hearing not just what she said, but how she said it. Why? Why should you have to tell your kid that you appreciate not just what she said, which is all that matters, but how she said it? If your kid is a teenager and is snotty, it's too late. It's too late. Game over. You're not going to fix that. Your kid's snotty. She's a teenager. The only way that's going to get resolved is whether she chooses to change that aspect of her personality. You aren't going to change it. Avoid using gender words like bossy to label an outspoken girl. Again, if your kid is a single child, especially, they aren't going to care. I can only imagine being a little kid and having my mother or father. My father would have never fucking said this to me, but my mother, if she would have said to me, Louis, you're too bossy, I would have laughed in her face. I would have laughed at that suggestion as if it fucking matters that I'm bossy. As a little kid, all I believed is, yeah, I'm bossy because I'm right. Because I should be in that position. I should be the leader. I should dictate to others what they should do. Because I know I'm right. A bossy fucking single child is not going to give a flying fuck what other people think. The only way that they are going to not be that way is to either be humiliated or severe discipline to shock them out of that position, which either one of those things isn't necessarily good. Okay? Being a aggressive little shit, a single child, is not necessarily a good thing. That you can grow up to be a fucked up person because of that. But what it's going to take to phase that kid out of being in that position, that's not necessarily a good thing either. It's something that's going to require a lot more than this fucking namby-pamby, nebulous bullshit to correct that kid's behavior or that aspect to their personality. You're too bossy, Louis. What is that going to change? If your kid is actually fazed by that, I'm pretty sure the parent's wrong. My mother said that I'm bossy. Who cares? Focus on the value of her voice, not the outcome of using it. There are times when we summon the courage to speak up only to be shut down. Perhaps the other girl refuses to listen or can only relate to her own opinions. That's a natural, if painful, moment in life, but it's not cause for giving up. Sometimes it's enough for a girl just to know that she's spoken her mind, regardless of the outcome. Remember, we don't have to be heard in order to speak up. Okay? There are two separate experiences. Above all, the most important thing for your daughter is to feel the authority of her own voice and to flex the muscle of using it. Okay, now I'm getting a conflicting message. If your kid is speaking from authority, is it to you? Is it to her friends? And again, it requires an actual point to speak from authority, to feel the authority of her own voice. It depends on the fucking situation, doesn't it? And again, there is no way to format your kid's personality to feel the authority of her own voice. There is no way to do that. You can, foist fucking Ayn Rand and objectivism on your kid. It doesn't mean that they're going to speak from authority from then on. Not everything applies to every kid. And again, like this is just so general. This is just so nebulous. There's nothing to this saying how you would actually instill in your kid to actually do this. Encourage the men and boys in your life to fucking be cucks. When girls see men and boys embracing female voices, girls are more likely to bring other men and boys into their lives who do the same. Like, what fucking girl doesn't want more pushover, sycophantic men? Really? By surrounding themselves with cucks who celebrate female voices, they reduce the likelihood of entering into relationships and work environments that silence them. No, you're wrong. You are, there's not one aspect of this that you are not fundamentally wrong about. Having a father that is a total cuck doesn't mean your daughter is going to somehow, like, how are they going to even understand authority? How are they going to even understand aggressiveness if their own father is a gigantic fucking faggot? This is mind-blowing to me. Who are they supposed to use as a role model for an authority figure to resemble, to think about in terms of how can I act in this matter more, to become more of a leader, to become more of an assertive, aggressive personality? Who can I become like? There's actually an aspect of this that I could talk about, but I'm way over time. But the fact is that one of the aspects that I've learned about politics is that you work the room that you're in. You become the persona that's best suited for that room. If it requires a very sound leader, you are someone that can sympathize with others in the room, but you are someone that speaks specifically as an individual, and you are forthright in what you believe. That is something that most people will see as appealing. This person's charismatic. They speak well. They sympathize with how I feel, but they're their own man. This is someone that I can look up to. This is someone that appeals to me. Or you're someone that engages someone directly. You engage someone directly in how they feel specifically. You engage in their anger. You tap into how they feel, and you speak to it. That's appealing for a completely other reason. It isn't just someone generally being a figure. It's someone that empathizes with you to a degree that other people don't. These other fucking people don't understand. This guy does. This guy understands everything that I'm about. He understands what pisses me the fuck off. That is something completely different, and it depends on the room. It doesn't matter whether you're saying anything or not. It depends on how you act. It depends on your persona. That's what fucking matters in being in a leadership position. Not this nebulous garbage. Not the dad being a fucking cuck. Indoctrinate your entire family about gender bias and practice talking back to it together. Wow. When you see a less conventionally attractive, opinionated... When you see a less conventionally... When you see an ugly fucking girl who's also opinionated... mocked on a television show, or view an ad where a woman's body is collapsed and undressed alongside a fully clothed you watching porn with your family? Talk about it. Question the value of scapegoating opinionated women. Okay, here's an example. Before we even finish this, we're talking about Carly Fiorina, and you are a staunchly liberal parent. You are a staunchly leftist fucking parent. You're sitting there reading fucking Trotsky and, and you're a Corbynite fan from the UK, like you're not going to sit there and, say, oh, look at how awful it is that Carly Fiorina or Sarah Palin was torn down by Bernie Sanders, or, by some pundit formerly on MSNBC now, because they've been cucked completely, but, on RT America, or, some other fucking podcast or something, okay? You aren't going to defend that person. You're not going to defend that woman because she disagrees with you ideologically. You're not going to do it. This is for only people that you already agree with, or neutral models, okay? People you don't realize. But again, this will not apply to every woman, okay? Especially if she's fucking opinionated. If she disagrees with you and you're a parent, you're more than likely not principled enough to lecture your kids about how that's wrong, that she's being scapegoated. That's wrong, that she's being taken advantage of or disrespected in this way. You're not going to fucking do it. We both know it. When the whole family practices cultural literacy, you create a group of change. Wow. Let me just start again. When the whole family practices cultural literacy, you create a group of change agents who take that mindset to school, work, and beyond. I mean, why am I sitting here thinking about, the Communist Party or National Socialism? Because, again, like, you can indoctrinate your kids, or you can let your kids think for themselves. You're not going to have both. And that's what this article is purporting that you do to your kids, that you indoctrinate them specifically. You create a group of change agents who take their indoctrination, their ideology to school, work, and beyond. Okay? I mean, I am, like, in my mind, I am seeing, the marches in fucking Berlin. I am seeing the fucking marches on Red Square. That's what comes to mind. Think of helicopter parenting to the nth degree. Think of, like, literally how, like, the party is coming to your house, handing pamphlets out to parents about how to raise their fucking, the most Aryan children that they can. This is spooky fucking shit with anyone with a half a brain. But, there's my hour-ass-long lecture to you. This is gonna fucking take forever to edit as well. Thanks for listening.